Street Fighter.
What's going on, fight fans? This is Capital Combat. The name says it all. I'm Rob Jarrell, and this is the preview to this weekend's middleweight championship fight for the vacant IBF middleweight title, featuring the big drama show, Gennady Triple G Golovkin versus Sergey Derevyanchenko. We got Triple G out of the Ukraine, the former champion. The Olympic silver medalist going against someone with a gangload of amateur fights in Derevyanchenko, who has been moved quickly along, being about 33 or 34. At middleweight, he's 13-1, with the sole loss being to Danny Jacobs, an opponent that they had in common, and which they have razor close decisions. I believe Derevyanchenko got a split decision versus Danny Jacobs, while Triple G got a close decision versus Jacobs, being that the biggest difference was the knockdown early in the fight. This fight is on dazn, and this is against a couple of guys who have great technical styles, but we have one guy. They have just about even amateur records or amateur fights. Like I said, Triple G was about 350 or more, while Derevyanchenko was over 400, both for the Olympics. But Triple G won a silver medal, and he saw a who's who of current pros that are around now, one being Andre Dirrell. So just going into this fight, we have Triple G, who has seen the best competition and has the most fights between the two at on the pro level. If I'm not mistaken, I'm gonna look it up. Triple G is 39-1-1. And we know he has a very high KO percentage. He has 35 KOs, again, higher percentage, more fights, while Derevyanchenko has 10 KOs, but really hasn't seen the level of competition that Triple G has. And it's an interesting fight because we know Derevyanchenko, the loss being to Danny Jacobs in a split decision in his last fight to Jack Holke out of Germany, were his two biggest fights to date. The third biggest would be against Terreno Johnson. But other than that, if you look at his record, he really doesn't have much. I mean, Deshaun Johnson was the next one, and Sam Solomon, who was well over the hill before Derevyanchenko got to him. And we know that Triple G has just come off his most recent fight with Steve Rolls, which was his first with new trainer Jonathan Banks, out of who is most famed for coming out of the Kronk Gym, but training Vladimir Klitschko for his last several fights. And of course, he was probably pushed to Triple G through K2, who both are promoted by. Also, Triple G has, we know Steve Rolls is his first fight with Jonathan Banks. He had two fights with Canelo Alvarez, one with Danny Jacobs, and those would be his best fights to date. After that, he's seen David Lemieux, and I'm looking at my phone because I have such a terrible memory. Vanis Martirosyan, Kell Brook, and Willie Monroe Jr., Martin Murray, Mark Antonio Rubio. So he's got a really Curtis Stevens, Matthew Macklin, Nobuhiro Ishida, Gabriel Rosado. So he's pretty much been fighting who has been willing to get in the ring with him, while some of the bigger names have not been able to make that move until later on in his career, being Canelo and Danny Jacobs. So the fight itself, I'm just going to start right off the bat. I'm going to pick Triple G in this fight. This fight is more so to see where he is in his career. We know Derevyanchenko is not much younger than Triple G, but he hasn't had the wear and tear on him. Again, the razor close decisions, only 13 fights at the pro level, while Triple G being the guy that, I'm not going to say he was exposed versus Canelo, because that would be dumb. It was more so a clash of styles, and a stark improvement by Canelo, even though he was popped for PUDs in between those fights. Triple G he's going to work behind that jab. He has one of the best jabs in the business, if not the best jab at going right now. It's a pole-like jab. He can throw it very quickly. It's very straight. It gets from point A to point B very, very quickly. But the difference in this fight than in his past fights is that he's going to be scaled back a little bit. We know in his fights with Canelo, he would swing for the fences. A lot of his fights, he's almost going solely for the knockout. He's, again, the big drama show. He's trying to make these fights, he's trying to make it exciting because he know higher profile, more action, bigger fights, and he wants to get that knockout. But Jonathan Banks is going to have him be a lot more patient, be a lot more fluid, a lot less robotic, and kind of work on some things in there. We think he has decent defense, but he will be hit versus Derevyanchenko, who has a decent jab. But I don't think he's going to want to be in there and stand in the box with Golovkin too much. Also, Golovkin steps with his opponents. He can trap his opponents very well. He can parry his opponents very well, and he wants to get on the inside. He wants to get at that mid-range. He can fight from range, and you saw that versus David Lemieux, but he wants to get in there. He's going to show a hook. He's going to kind of reach over the top of the jab. Nothing that he commits to off bat, but he's going to come with the right. He wants to dig to the body with his left hand. He does that very well. He's knocked out guys. Believe it was Matthew Macklin where he hit him and it sounded like, or it was either Matthew Macklin or Martin Murray, double M, go figure, that he really hit them with a left shot to the body, and it literally sounded like that guy got shot. There was no getting up from that, and he can be efficient. Again, in his last several fights, he's been trying to make fights when he doesn't have to. So do not. I would be surprised if he knocks him out in the first 6 rounds. Derevyanchenko has the pedigree to not get hit too much, and he knows how to fight back. He can brawl, he can punch. Remember, there were a lot of times in the Danny Jacobs fight where he punched with Danny Jacobs, either with them or in between his punches. You don't want to punch with Golovkin. Some guys have tried to punch with them, and they'll land, but they won't land as cleanly as he'll land. So either he'll get to him first, or they'll hit pretty much different, and Triple G will have more impact on his punches. I think they're going to try to vary up his attack against Derevyanchenko. I think they're going to have him not take as many chances in this fight that he did with Canelo and Danny Jacobs. For Derevyanchenko, it's going to be more mental than anything else. I mean, it's going to be physical too because he has the knockouts, but he really hasn't seen that competition. His 2 biggest challenges, he did not knock out. He did not put away. Jack Calcade was able to run him, his weird in and out style, he was able to run him into some right hands. He was knocked down versus Danny Jacobs early, but he weathered the storm. And like I said, he really fought back. But mentally, he's got to do the one thing that all opponents since the Kell Brook fight have been able to do. Prove that you're not scared and that the punch will not affect you as much as he's hoping. Kell Brook was the first one who proved that he wasn't scared of Triple G. Unfortunately, had it not been for the broken eye socket, I would have seen that fight going further. And he was a smaller guy, very muscular, very tight, but he was blown up welterweight, fighting in middleweight, and he showed that he wasn't scared. From then on, guys that he fought, not named Steve Rolls or let's see, Kell Brook, Danny Jacobs, Canelo Alvarez, they were not scared of him. They were able to take a good punch from him and continue to fight. Canelo did the good thing and avoided most of his punches, but again, Derevyanchenko cannot take clean punches, but he cannot be scared. He's got to fight smart. He's got to make every punch that he throws count, and he'll be able to get to him. I think he likes to shoot that right to the body, but again, he's not going to be able to jab with Golovkin. He doesn't really use the jab that well. He can jab to get the right to the body, to work the body and to bring the left hook up top, but I just don't see him being able to keep Golovkin off him. Golovkin gets hit, but Golovkin does not stop coming. You can hurt him. He has been hurt, but he has not been broken. He has not been knocked down. So Derevyanchenko has to be. He can't be scared, but he has to fight smart. He cannot go straight back like I've seen him do. He did that in the Kalke fight. He did that in the Dana Jacobs fight. He cannot go straight back because, again, Triple G can put you against the ropes. He can trap you against the ropes, and moving backwards is just asking for him to hit you with the right hand that can get there very quickly. And when you think you're out of range, you're not quite out of his range. I'm looking for late stoppage. I think Derevyanchenko can last all 12, but I think he will show enough, but he will be eventually broken down. Look for some good body work. Look for Triple G to work off that jab. Look for him to kind of vary up his attack. He shouldn't be showing the same thing too consistently because in the Canelo fight, they started to time it. Again, Canelo has shown a stark improvement. Derevyanchenko has been pretty much who he is. The difference with Derevyanchenko in this fight and not his last two fights against Kalke and Danny Jacobs was that he didn't have his primary trainer, which is Andre Rozier. He trains both Danny Jacobs and Derevyanchenko, and he decided to train Jacobs for that fight versus Derevyanchenko. He wasn't able to train him versus Kalke because he was busy training Danny Jacobs versus, I want to say Canelo. I could be wrong. But when you have two guys like that who are top 10 middleweights, you have to make a choice. And he's been able to train them. He hasn't had a chance to be in Derevyanchenko's corner. You're going to see the difference here. Even Derevyanchenko in his interview has said, while the coaches are good, having Rozier back in his corner is just a different type of energy. And he fully trusts Rozier to carry him into this fight, to come up with a game plan to take on Triple G. And again, Rozier has seen Triple G because Danny Jacobs has fought him. So he may implement something different for Derevyanchenko in this fight. I think it'll be competitive early. Look for them to possibly split the first 6 rounds. I think Derevyanchenko might be able to steal some rounds because Triple G might be a little slower to get started, but it's going to be a systematic breakdown. You're going to see some showy shots that are really going to catch your eye, and don't be surprised if Derevyanchenko gets knocked down in that first round because he is not a fast starter. Both of them take time to get going, but Triple G is more accurate. He hits harder, and he's going to be the taller man, and he's going to have the longer reach. So tell us what you think. Who do you have? Is Derevyanchenko going to bring the fight to Triple G? Is he going to be able to last the whole fight? Is Triple G going to put on that performance that we're used to outside of the Canelo Alvarez fight? Smash that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel so we can bring you more content. If you haven't, check out Hakeem's recap, an unbiased recap of Errol Spence Jr. versus Sean Porter. That is also on the channel from last weekend. Hit us up in the comments. capitalcombat@gmail.com, capitalcombat at Google+, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And until next time, fight on.
This is round 1 and you've already lost. They don't seem to see that everything we've done is coming.